Hello, I'm Jackie Barry, author of the new book Experiential Speaking, which is Icebreakers and Energizers for Speakers and Trainers. And I'm here today with Tom Morley, most famously the drummer of Scritti Politti. And today what he does is he reveals the secrets of music biz creativity and artistic innovation, and has a 7-step remix process that helps teams around the world to develop a more agile mindset. So thanks for joining me, Tom.
You're welcome. Good to be here.
Hello. Now, we both like to engage an audience in an activity in order to embed a message. I do it with paper throwing and running about and exercises they can do while they're sitting in their seat, and you do it through the rhythm of drumming. So tell me more about that, and what do people learn from the activities you engage them with?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you call it embedding a message, what I do, because that sounds like I have some kind of business application in mind. I mean, there are business benefits, of course. They wouldn't employ me otherwise. But my agenda really is to connect as many people who are kind of stuck in their minds, which is where a lot of stress occurs, and bring that down into their hearts. I've recently done this with business groups where I've said, look, your eyes, you think what you're seeing out there is informing your brain, where everything's being worked out, all the build, all the stress, all the things you're hiding, all the things you're enjoying. Let's see, just imagine looking out into the world and it's bringing information to your heart. Now look from your heart. And I'll tell you, without even playing a note, or without them playing a drum, without them being any drums in the room, without there being any drums in the room, I see them change. Now, if everything's going on in their head and they're in fight or flight mode, as you know from your work, in fight or flight, you're not curious. Your whole system is just defending you. And also you see in that mode, and most people are in that mode all the time, in low level overwhelm because of their targets. In that mode, you see everything as a threat. That's you can deny it and go, oh no, I'm fine. But so my mission really is to do my work, bring people to their heart, negate the threat, the perceived threat out there. Then they are bound to make better decisions within their companies, with their teams, for themselves when they get home. So now I can do that with harmony singing, but people are more fearful of harmony singing. So I turn up with a whole load of drums, and they want to hit something anyway. So it's permission to hit something, make a lot of noise. I've seen around the world, doesn't matter what team, doesn't matter how old, what culture, young, it's, I work in schools as well. If I just give out the drums, I say, right, just make as much noise as you want. They think I'm going to say, play this rhythm, follow me, da, da, da. I just say, make as much noise as you want. And I see this glee, this lighting up whole rooms of people. What? We're allowed to express this kind of inner, it could be inner joy, it could be inner anger, frustration, but it's allowed to come out. And it comes out collectively, so that's the permission. I am the permission. The reason I wear I'm actually a very shy guy, but the reason I wear a hat and dress like this, they think, oh well, that's that guy. It's like the clown at a circus, it means we can just join in a little bit. Now them joining in a little bit compared to me is actually quite a lot. So I have to be on the mountaintop so they can go to base camp. That's and they wouldn't send out from base camp if they thought I was just in base camp. They'd go, we'll stay here in the bar, thank you very much. So what they sorry, you asked about my method. My method really is they would happily tell me for an hour why they can't play drums. I haven't got a musical bone in my body. my music teacher told me that mime and the, you know, they have all these stories. They would happily tell me all their stories. I go, well, we're just going to start playing. And then from that rumble, I say, oh, just play this back to me. Da, 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 da. And so I do it very simply in a way they can't refuse. And I see this confusion in them. They go, I don't like this sort of thing. But you know what? I'm smiling. Why am I smiling? I hate this sort of thing. And why is Jack smiling? He would normally leave at a time like this. And so I see this transition. It happens in the first 10 minutes to, oh, what the hell? This guy seems to know what he's doing. And I'm having a great time. So let's go on. And then they don't want to stop. You know? So, and what I've said to people is that engages a different part of the brain, which is the creative part. It gets rid of the fight or flight, gets them into flow. Everyone says, how do I get into flow? Have I got to play jazz for 10 years? No, you don't. You can get in a flow almost at will now. There's so many ways to get into this mysterious state of flow. You can do it breathing, you can do it drumming, you can do it singing, you can do it walking in a different way even. So they get into a collective state of flow. They experience that. They know what, it's undeniable. It's not like, yes, we all go into flow at the conference. You know, they experience it. They can talk about it. I get them to talk about it and how that's changed. Now, the issue, as I'm sure the issue for you in all your exercise in your books, people say, and it's why your book, I'm sure, is very good for this, because people say, how do we make it sustainable? We can't invite you back all the time with your drums, but there's the drums are just like opening the door. And then once you go through the door, you go, oh, actually, it is quite easy to stay here. So that's, I know that's an issue that people like you and I come up with a lot. People go, it's all very well, but everyone went back to their normal way of being. Well, I'll tell you why they went back to their normal way of being. It's because it's easy, it's comfortable. They don't want to make any effort. So I mean, that sounds quite cynical. I make it as attractive as I can to experience that state of flow as a team. So then they, rather than it be, oh, that guy made us do this thing, it's, do you know what, it's good here. This is what I feel when I'm surfing, or when I'm playing with my children, or when I'm coaching the football team. All these things. It's called discretionary effort. So they save it for the weekend. They go, oh, I'll get exhausted if I do all the good stuff at work. You know, it's not. It's a generator that gives you a good life. It's so that's my other agenda, really, just to kind of activate people. I often say to bookers, I can get the genie out of the bottle, but don't ask me to get it back in. I haven't studied that.
I love that you have said all that, and you've covered lots of points. So let me go back over a few of them. One was that you give people permission to hit the drums and make a lot of noise. And I think with mine, a lot of it is gamifying activities, even for an adult audience, because I haven't tried and tested these a lot in schools. It's not really my market. And I just think everyone has inside them that ability to be fun and playful and creative, and it is just sometimes giving them permission, and they will move towards that with more or less enthusiasm. But I don't get them to do anything embarrassing or anything that other people in the room aren't doing, and if anyone's going to be mostly embarrassed, it will be me. And so it just works. Now, another point you made is that actually in your personal branding and as an individual, you present yourself in such a way to overcome shyness. And I would also label myself as shy and or introverted, in that I like spending time on my own, and I get my energy from being on my own rather than in a crowd of people. And so this is a slightly different conversation to say, for people who speak or train or facilitate, they stand up in front of a room and they have to have all the audience's eyes on them. So do you have any tips about, other than putting on the costume, about how to overcome shyness when you're stepping out there and you're the centre of attention and you need people to look at you and listen to you?
find out what your values are. You know, look inside, find out what your values are. And if your values are social justice, belonging, love, even family, connection, imagination, especially if you think the world needs more justice, more imagination, more creativity, then it doesn't matter how shy you are. All you need is to say, am I going to live up to my values today or not? Am I going to put it off for another day? Now, you can be shy for 25 years while you work all that out. Jung said, if you're not teaching by the time you're 40, then there's something wrong with you. Now, he didn't mean go and be a teacher. He meant assess what you know, get out there and tell it to the world. I was just watching a video by a guy. He said, like I said earlier, we have so many options of enlightenment these days, so many ways of getting there. And he said, really, in personal development, you get about 80% of what you're after fairly quickly. So your return on investment is pretty high. And he said, a lot of people, they then spend a whole load of energy going for the 20%. It's like polishing the final bit of their statue. He said, that's not the point of enlightenment. It's not the point of development. The point is to take your wisdom, your treasure, back to the village and be active with it. Don't just tell people about it, get things going. So I think shy people, especially, they're watchers. As a child, I watched a lot. I had 3 other brothers. I watched them mess all sorts of things up. I was too shy to say anything. And then when I got older, I just started to say, well, here, give it to me. Do you know what? This is it's quite sad, but it's also, it's a true story. That when my dad died when I was about 20, and I got the news, and immediately I thought, I'm the one to speak at his funeral. And what I could say, it was like a download, and I perfected it on the way. And my brothers were fine; they didn't know what to say, and they individually, they all said to me, that was amazing. And one of my brothers said, if you never say anything else in your life, you have said what you came to say. And I think there was something really significant about that for me. And I was talking about speak from your values. You know, it was really heartfelt. But not only that, I knew that I was the one to craft that talk in a way to connect everybody at that funeral, move them, entertain them, and honor my dad, who he made a lot of mistakes, but also he had some things going for him that kind of formed the whole family vibe that he didn't really know about. He just did it. So
now, what you've just done there is demonstrate some of the value you give clients, because I can see on your website you've got a testimonial from someone saying that Tom has deep wisdom, a dry sense of humour, and he's a storytelling genius. So we know that also audiences respond well to stories. So thank you for sharing that one. Now, going back to one of your earlier points, you said that engaging people in an activity gets their brain working in a different way, so they get into flow, and by experiencing things collectively, that helps with very practical benefits to a business about team building. And I know I've had a little tiny 10-minute taster of what you do at one of the Professional Speaking Association events where you were invited to turn up. So as a participant, I know what it feels like, and could definitely have done with more than just 10 minutes of that action of collective flow. So one thing I was wondering, at that meeting, you turned up with a van load of drums.
Yeah.
But as the props that I use, it's just paper and pen, or perhaps nothing at all. Just some creative ideas about how to get people doing things but always things that have a point. It's not things just for fun, even if they are fun. So what practical tips have you got for speakers and trainers who have to carry large and heavy items about to do their thing? Because it's got to be worthwhile, hasn't it? It adds to the hassle factor of running an event or attending an event.
Yeah, people ask me if I get fed up with loading, unloading drums. I never do, because, like I say, if I get my energy from my values and I believe these tools will open people up to their hearts, why would I be fed up with that? You know, and there's you know, that guy Mikhail, unpronounceable name, who wrote the book about flow. He said flow is found at the intersection of discipline and surrender. Now, this is really interesting. I think it's really interesting for this century, because in the last century, there was quite a lot of delayed gratification. There's, you know, my parents met in the war. There's all sorts of delayed gratification, with rationing, with, you know, not being able to get things without, with, you know, dancing to one record over and over again, because that's the only record you had. So there wasn't like this, you can have anything you want whenever you want. So we grew up with discipline. So if we think, oh yeah, the groove, I call about it the groove. Sorry, I talk about it as groove rather than flow, being at the intersection of discipline and surrender. That we have a lot of groove about it, but it's kind of hidden. Our discipline could be as simple as walking or sitting. So if I was to do a body percussion thing, you won't see me stomping, but I'm going to go. Now, if you do that with a group of 100 people, and they're all doing that, they're standing, they're stomping, they're clapping. At first, they're a little bit. Now, the discipline is being able to stand, right? So you don't need any drums. Being able to stand is actually quite complicated. You know, we take it for granted, but there's all sorts of balance going on. We shouldn't really be standing up, to be honest, but we do as humans. So it's so if you add just a few simple things to make it more difficult, that is the surrender. I see people trying to work it out with their brains. They have to surrender. They're doing it with their body. You know, they're stomping on the floor. You can't do that. You have to get the brain on board, but your feet are doing it. So in fact, I don't need a van load of drums. I just need I'm going to keep coming back to the values that I believe if people are connected, they're connected and they're in a state of flow. They're just going to come up with good solutions. If that means they double their bottom line, they double their profits, I'm very happy. It means I'll get invited back next. Well, no, actually it doesn't always mean I get invited back. What they say is, I felt great after your session. It must have been that coffee we had in the break.
With my activities, I'm aware that there are people in the audience that don't like audience participation, and they start off dreading it, or they've heard it's going to be interactive and they fear they're going to be made a fool of, and it's absolutely not like that. But peer pressure makes them get involved, because whoever's on stage, you're the expert, you're in the spotlight, and people are generally obedient. They will do whatever you ask them to do, even if they start off hating it. And I suppose our job as what I have taken to call experiential speakers is to unlock that bit of them where they will realise that it's not painful and it is fun, but there is a point to it. And this comes back, I suppose, to summarise everything you've been saying, which is it's all about the message. It's not about the medium, it's not about you, the individual. When you've got a message that's important to communicate, you'll get that across in whichever way you need to. And it might be through an activity, it might be through, I don't know, a one-to-one coaching and mentoring session for some people and some consultants, or it might be through reading if it's in a book form. But
Can you give me an example of that, of a message? Because I'm not sure if I agree with you.
Well, my messages would be generally about communicating better, because I come from the point of view of being a copywriter by trade, and sometimes I need to get what's in my head or my client's head into the brain of the audience, and sometimes that will be by writing words on paper or on screen. Sometimes it will be through a talk, so they're listening. But often, and this is where the new book comes in, it's through an activity the audience undertakes, and by undertaking the activity, they will remember more clearly the point that I'm trying to make, rather than dry theory. So
I thought you meant the message being this is this year's sales figures. They need to be.
You can even do that if you do that in a creative, gamified kind of way, and they're going to listen to dry, dull things like sales figures when you make it into a game, or a quiz, or some of those ideas in my book, rather than just say, here's another spreadsheet, because no one gets excited about that. So,
I mean, the thing about them hating us or hating the activity, I often look at an audience of 200 people, and I know they hate me. They go, who booked this guy? And I just let them know that. I say something like, my first words will be, hello, my name's Tom. Is anyone else having a bad hair day? Or I'll say, hello, my name's... And they laugh. Like all stand-up comedians, you let the audience know immediately that you know what they're thinking. So, for instance, a huge person will come on and say, you'll see this if you watch comedians. They'll come on and go, can you see me all right at the back? It's a reference to the way they look, because that's initially the way you'll be judged. So, so that kind of breaks the ice really quickly, because I'm very often the first person on. They don't even announce me. So they've had their video of people throwing javelins in slow motion and leadership and all that malarkey that they have to do. And then there's me. So I've got to win them over very quickly. But the thing is, I know that in their heart, while their mind is going, oh my God, why don't I take annual leave? Their heart is going, do you know what? This guy's something, he's got something for us. And I just speak straight to the heart. I don't try and convince their judgmental minds. Some of them will hate me for half an hour before they kick in with their minds, but their heart and soul is going, yay, who booked this guy? You know, so that's, I wouldn't be able to do much. As a shy kid, could you imagine going on stage with 200 people hating you? I wouldn't be able to do it.
I love that idea of winning over an audience quickly, and a parallel technique that I have is if I have all little props, I'll put it in an envelope that they each have on their chair or their table saying, do not open until advised. And what happens is, because people are obedient, they generally don't open it, but they know they're going to get permission later, and it gets their curiosity going, and they start listening because they want to know, what's this about? And even if they do open it, nothing inside makes any sense until I explain it later on. So it's just a way of shifting mindset, where the minute they walk in, instead of thinking, hey, it's another dry, dull talk, they're curious. And that's how you need them to be before you start. And that curiosity with the whole inflow, you know, it doesn't, if people are receptive, they can move into a state of flow pretty quickly. So I think you're right, props like that just opens up their curiosity. It'll mean, I mean, very often, I'm sure your job is the same as mine sometimes. Our job is to distract them from the emails they should have sent, the row they had before they left home, all that stuff that they're still thinking about when they come into the room. They see something on the seat that says, do not open this. They go, oh, you know, it's like so all that stuff is forgotten. What's in the envelope, you know? And you're right, it triggers curiosity. So same with me and the drum. I've just thought of another joke, you know, there's all these drums and shakers all over the place. And then I come on and say, and of course they're playing and they're trying things out. I say,
did anyone tell you not to play the instruments? So it's immediately, we're engaged, and that engagement, it kind of goes, that I know they think, what are we going to do next? And people have said to me, especially if I've said we're going to sing in harmony, they go, we knew we couldn't sing in harmony. And they said, but do you know what? You seem to believe we could. So we just sort of went along with it. You seem so casual about it. And then 20 minutes later, they're singing in harmony.
And
so,
it's a beautiful thing.
It's beautiful, yeah. And I can only do it because I've done it lots of times. And I know it's not a particular group or a particular demographic, or, you know, because I've done this all around the world. It's going to work. And I know they believe it won't work. So it's quite a lovely position to be in. See that hate turn to trust, turn to kind of, you know, let's get this guy back. You know?
Well, clearly we're both all about the engagement
Yeah.
of the audience with our very different skill sets.
Yeah.
And we could probably talk all day about it, but
yeah.
If people want to know more about you, where do they go to find out?
Well, my name is Tom Morley, M-O-R-L-E-Y. It's like Bob Marley, but different. And my website's very complex. It's tommorley.com.